Hi, my name is Carl Marn and I'm the product manager of MetaShare. In this video, I will show you how to create and manage your own taxonomy in MetaShare. I will, however, start with a few slides. I will start by just introducing you with a few taxonomy definitions in Sharepoint. The term store is a database in Sharepoint where you define your taxonomy. A side column is Sharepoint's terminology for a metadata field. The side content type defines which columns to show in a document form, which of these columns should be mandatory or optional, and in which order the columns are displayed in the form. Lastly, the content type hub is a place where content types are created so that they can be published and reused across all sites in SharePoint. These are the most common used side columns for document management in SharePoint. Manage metadata column is a lookup column to a flat or hierarchical values stored in the term store. Person or group column is a lookup column to the user directory in Active Directory. Date column is a date field. Boolean column is a yes or no field displayed as a checkbox. Choice column of type radio button is for fields with few values that do not change over time. Single line of text column is a free text field with a maximum of 255 characters. Lastly, we have multiple line of text column, which is a free text field where you can write in multiple lines. I will now start with the demo. If you're assigned the role MetaShare Content Administrator, you can access the term store by clicking on the settings icon in MetaShare's top bar and thereafter clicking on the term store element in MetaShare settings left navigation menu. I will now show you how to manage your taxonomy in the term store, and we'll start by showing you how to modify the taxonomy of MetaShare's sample data if you selected the option to add a sample information model during the MetaShare activation. If you did not import the sample data during the activation, I will later in the demonstration also show you how to create your own metadata and terms. First, I, however, want to make you aware of some of the elements in the term store. Let's start by looking at the settings on the term store's start page. The term store administrators defines who will have full control to administrate the whole term store. The working languages defines in which languages the terms will be presented in MetaShare. You can configure it to manage multiple languages. If you do not intend to use more than one language, the recommendation is to only have that language in the term store, as it will make your life easier just needing to update your terms in one language. My term store is currently configured to be in English. Just to show you how it looks like when you have several languages, I will add a second language, in this case Swedish. I add it and click on Save. If you have more than one language in the term store, one is always set as a default language. Let's keep English as a default language, but this is where you will change it. To switch between different languages in the term store, you can easily swap by selecting another language in the language selection drop down here. So let's look at what a term set group is. A term set group contains one or several terms. The MetaShare term set group in this case contains three term sets: area, document type, and keyword. Permissions can be set on a term set group. So if I click on MetaShare, we can define both group managers and contributors. You do not need to be a term store administrator to manage term sets and terms within term set group. It's enough if you are a contributor in the term set group. If you're a group manager, you will as well be able to assign permissions to the whole term set group. In my case, I am a term set administrator, so I do not need to be either a contributor or a group manager to modify the term store. Under a term set group, we have term sets. And the term sets contain terms that can be hierarchically structured. In this case, these two term sets are not hierarchical, but we'll show you later on how to do that. A term set can be open, allow normal users to add terms to it directly from MetaShare, which is the case as defined here with keywords. So keywords is an open term set. But if I look at document type and area, both of them are closed. And closed means that you can just add terms here as a term store administrator. Let's look at a sample term set called document type. Most probably you will want to have a metadata field called document type. The document's metadata field document type uses the objects in this term set. See it as the database for the field. Before we do any changes, let's open a workspace that has document type and upload a document. So we go to MetaShare and open General Documents. Here I want to upload a document. I do it by dragging and dropping a document. I selected a document type. It's enough with the document type, the others are not mandatory. And I click on Save. So I tag this document, my CV, as a CV, as a document type. Now let's review the terms available here and document type. We have these different document types, and they correspond to the document types presented in this database, the term set for document type. So after reviewing the terms in the list, let's then make some changes. First, we want to rename the ones whose names do not match our internal terminology. As an example, let's rename protocol PM to protocol and agenda. I click on this field and I rename it and I click Save. If we now have documents that are tagged with a term that has been renamed, the documents will get the new name automatically without changing their version number, their modified time, and modified by tags. It will, however, not be done instantly. You will have to wait for an hour or two for a scheduled job to do the changes. Now we want to create the document types that are missing. An example is white paper. What we do here, to the right of the document type, there's a drop down, and I select Create Term. And I write white paper and press Enter on my keyboard. Then we want to create a hierarchical structure. If we look at agreements, agreements can be of different types. Let's create children terms to agreement. So the same way as I created a term by clicking on this drop down on the term set, I can now click on the drop down next to the term and I create a subterm. Let's create assignment agreement and another term called license agreement. After having created these two subnodes to agreement, we want agreement just to be grouping and not allow users to tag with agreement. So we select agreement here and remove this checkbox on available for tagging and click Save. The symbol of agreement will change to another symbol indicating that it's not a non-taggable term. To demo how a term can be defined in different languages, I will also translate agreement to Swedish. So agreement, now everything is in English, but I can go in on each term and switch languages. So English is agreement, and the Swedish term would be avtal. And I click Save. So now this term is defined in two different languages. Agreement for English and avtal for Swedish. I'll later show you how it looks like in MetaShare. To show you that terms as well can be moved, I will create a term on the top level called employment agreement. And then move it to the agreement node. So I take the drop down here and I click move. Then I define where do I want to move this term. I select agreement, and this term is now a child to the agreement node. Now let's merge two terms. Instructions and checklists are fairly similar, and users have maybe been tagging documents on both of these terms. So what we can do here is I take checklist and decide to merge checklist with instructions. I open up once again here and find instruction and click OK. I get a warning, click OK. And now my checklist is gone and instruction has both instruction as a default label and checklist as another label. So any documents that were previously tagged with checklist will within soon be tagged with instruction. This retagging is also done by a scheduled job, and the documents will automatically be updated without changing the version number, their modified time, and modified by tags. If a specific term has not yet been used, it can without any problem be deleted. As an example, let's delete budget and forecast. To give the user some guidance when tagging with instruction, we can also provide the user with a help text saying that the instruction document type also encompasses checklists. So in the description, we write here encompasses also checklists. If one of the document types no longer should be used, but you still want all documents to be tagged with this document type, you could deprecate it. New documents will not be able to be tagged with the document type, but old ones can still maintain the tagging. The terms will also not be shown in the filter. To show this, let's deprecate CV. I click on it and select deprecate term. And once again, it's shown with a different symbol. Let's now look at these changes. So I go back to this page, and maybe I will open a new tab with this workspace so we can look at them side by side. The refreshed page and the old page. Here, agreement is a flat tag, and in the other, agreement is a hierarchical tag with 3 children. If I try to tag with agreement, it will also tell me that document cannot be tagged with agreement. I need to select another value, basically one of its children as an example. Budget forecast was deleted. It was available before. Here we have checklist. It's not available here, but instruction has a help text, and the earlier checklist was merged with instruction. CV is not anymore available here in the document filter, but I uploaded this document earlier on, and I can still filter on CV, even though it's not available as one of the options in the document filter. We renamed protocol PM to protocol agenda. This was the old name. And we added white paper as a new document type. So now everything is in English. If I go to my browser settings and decide to have Swedish as my preferred language and go back to this MetaShare workspace and refresh the page, we see that agreement is now avtal, but the rest of them are in English as I have not translated, given them any other translation. Let's now create two new metadata fields that we want to use for financial documents. So I go to the term store. The fields will be called year and period, and they will be used to specify which year and/or period a financial document applies to. I will show you two ways to create these databases. We start by creating a new database for year that will have all the values that we believe we want to tag our documents with. So we create a new term set called year. In the same way as I earlier created terms under each and one of these term sets, I can go to term set group and I choose new term set. And we call it year. We do not want to have to involve IT as soon as a new year needs to be added to the database. Therefore, we set the database as open. This will then give the users the option to add new years when and if they are needed. Let's then create a few terms. Under year, we create 2019 and 2020. Term sets can also be imported by using a CSV file. Detailed instructions on how to do this can be found in MetaShare's admin manual. I will here show you this help page. Under an FAQ section, how do I create a term set import file? I have beforehand created a term set import file for period. Let's first just open the CSV file so you can see how it looks like. So I open my quarters CSV file, and if I transform this data from text to columns, you see here that the term set name is period. It has a level 1 and level 2 term where the hierarchical structure is shown here. And here we define whether or not these terms are available for tagging. I will not do any changes to this CSV file. What I do here now is I click on the term set group. Instead of creating a new term set, I import a term set. And now I find this term set import file, quarters.csv, and click OK. Now you see that a term set called period has been created. It has month and quarter. Under month, we have all the months, and under quarter, we have all the quarters. Now that we have created these two term sets, we also need to create a new content type for financial documents that has the two new metadata fields called year and period. Let's start by going back to MetaShare settings and create a new workspace configuration. So we click on the MetaShare logo, click on settings, and then click on workspace configurations. If you want to see more information about how to create and configure MetaShare, there is another video that you can watch that explains these different steps more in details. Right now, I'll just create a new workspace configuration and explain more in depth how a content type is created and how to add and define columns in that content type. So once I've clicked on the workspace configuration, I give the workspace configuration a name, and I select MetaShare Workspace and click on Save. Under Finance, I go to the document content types. As you can see here, there's just one content type available, the one that was created when I activated MetaShare and chose to import the sample information model. Before creating a new content type, I will, however, show you how the sample document type is configured, which I do by clicking on its name, or basically by clicking on Manage by the name of the content type. On the new browser tab that opens, you see the content type's name, sample document, the columns that the content type has, title, area, document type, and keywords, in which order they are shown in the form, basically the order that they are listed here, and whether they are mandatory or optional. Here we see that all of these are optional apart from the name, which is the file name. If you want to change the status of a column, I just click on the column and change the status from optional to something else. In this case, I will change title to hidden. Title is an out-of-the-box column, and in most cases it's not needed. It's when you, for instance, want to give some extra details about the document that is not given by the file name. Then we want to change both area and document type to mandatory. So I click on area, I change it to required, okay, and do the same thing with document type. Now you see here that title is hidden, document type and area are required, and keywords is optional. Once I'm done with my changes, I need to click on the Manage Publishing for this content type link and click on the OK button to republish it. You see it's automatically set to republish. I click OK. If I do not republish it, the changes will not be propagated to the MetaShare workspaces. There's no way to control the frequency for the scheduled job that publish the content type to all workspaces. Normally this should not take more than an hour, but it can vary up to a day. Now I can close this browser tab and go back to MetaShare settings. What we now want to do is to create a new content type called financial documents. So what I showed you previously was just give you a feeling of how a content type looks like. Now we actually create the new content type. We click on the Create Content Type button. This will open a new browser tab with a content type creation page. We give the content type a name, in this case, financial document. Then we select the content type's parent. Basically, what kind of content type we want to create. In this case, we want to create a document content type. So I select document content type. It should inherit the metadata from the out-of-the-box document content type, available in the second dropbox. Then we select a grouping for the new content type. By selecting MetaShare content types, it will later on be easier to see the content types we have created for MetaShare, but you can also create new groups if needed. Once I'm done with this, I click on the OK button. Now we come to the new content types page, where we can define what columns the new content type should have. We start by adding the columns that already are available in Sharepoint: area, document type, and keywords. And what we do then is click on this link, Add from existing site columns. To easier find the columns that are used in MetaShare, we can first select MetaShare columns in the dropdown. Then we can select all the 3 columns and click on the Add button to add them to the content type and click OK. Now we do the same thing as we did with the sample document type, hiding the title column and making both area and document type columns required. We also want to create the 2 new columns that we will link to the 2 databases that we created in the term store, year and period. We will now click on the Add from New Site column link, and we give the column a name, in this case, year. We decide what type of column we want to create. In this case, we will create a Manage Metadata column. But this is where you would define whether it should be a single line of text, or a choice column, or a date column, or a person or group column, and so on. We decide to group the column in the MetaShare columns group. We could give column a description. Let's write something here. If applicable, please select a year that the document applies to. We decide whether a document should be able to be tagged with more than 1 year by selecting Allow multiple values, which we do not do in this case. We just want to be able to tag with 1 year per document. Then a bit further down here, we select the database that the column will be linked with. So I open up the taxonomy, open up the MetaShare term set group. I open up and I select the year term set. As we created an open term set for year, you see that we have the option to allow users to fill in new values. I could change that, but as we talked about earlier, we want to allow the users to create new values. We do not want to have a default value for the column, else we could have selected the default value here. Once we are done, we click on the OK button. Now we do the same for the period column. So I click on Add from New Site column. I give it the name, period. I select Manage Metadata. I put it in the MetaShare columns group. I point out the period database, and I click on OK. So now we have both year and period in this content type. If you now want, we can reorder the columns by clicking on the link Column Order a bit further down on the page. And here we can reorder how these columns are displayed in the form. We are fine with this, so we don't do any changes. Once we're done defining the new content type, we publish it by clicking on the Manage Publishing for this content type. As this is a new content type that has not earlier been published, the option is to publish and not to republish it. I click OK. Now, when everything is done with this new content type, we can close this browser tab and go back to the Workspace Configuration page in MetaShare. To see the new content type, we must first refresh this page. Now we see financial document here. We just drag and drop it. Oh, by the way, I now notice that the user interface is in Swedish as I switched my browser setting. Let me go back and switch the browser setting back to English. I refresh my page. So once again, I take the financial document and drag and drop it to the selected zone instead of available. And now I click on Save. If I now go to the document columns and document filters, we now get both period and year as columns to choose for. So let's customize the document view. I want to have area. I want to have document type. I want to have keywords, modified, modified by, period, maybe version, and year. I'll put them in this order, click Save. And then I go to the document filters and do the same thing, add area, document type, keywords, modified, file type, year, and period. And click on Save. Once we have configured a new workspace configuration with this new content type that we created, financial document, we can go to MetaShare and click on New to create new workspace. I select the finance configuration, give the workspace a name, and click on Save. I get an indication that the workspace is being created, and within soon the workspace will be listed here on this page, as well as I will receive an email indicating that the workspace has been created. Let's now see if the workspace has been created. Actually, I paused the video recording for about 15 minutes. So I refresh this page, and I see that finance site is here. We click on it to open the workspace. Let's upload a document to see if the document has the metadata fields that we define in the content type. So I open up my file explorer and can drag and drop these 4 documents I have here. Yes, we see that area and document type both are mandatory columns. So we need to select something as an area and something as a document type. When I search for agreement, we see the 3 different agreements that we created. Let's select license agreement. We see that year is an optional column as well as period. And year, I can select either one of the available ones, or I can select the new year and add it, as we decided that this is supposed to be an open term set. And period, I select January, and I click save. And under year, we now have 2021 as well that we added from the form. This recording that I've done shows you briefly how to create and update your taxonomy. For more detailed information about how to create and update your taxonomy, we can go to the admin manual by clicking on Help, User Manual, under Online Help, and here select the admin manual. Detailed information about the term store, terms, content types, and columns are found under these 2 sections: Management of MetaShare's taxonomy, term store definition, the term store's language settings, manage term set, and manage terms, as well as management of MetaShare's document metadata. How to create the site column, how to define the site column, how to delete the site column, and so on and so forth. Thank you for taking your time to see this video. I hope that I have managed to show you how to create and manage your own taxonomy in MetaShare. Please take your time to look at some of the other MetaShare videos available on metashare.com. If you'd like to ask me anything regarding MetaShare, please do not hesitate to contact me. Here you find my contact details.